Hello and welcome to a Universus deck review. Today we're going to be reviewing a character that is near and dear to my heart and a character that I was very hyped for the moment that they were spoiled. The preview for this character, the alt art for this character, absolutely amazing. The mechanics of this character are something I find very, very cool. And if you look at our tier list where we went over like the attacks of Girl Power, this Midnight's Ultra Rare is a card that me and Richard had a lot of back and forth about. So we are going to be looking at Midnight 2. Midnight 2 is a very powerful character that has two responses. So let's start off with the basics across. They are a 6-hander with 29 health, with Chaos, Death, and Void, and two responses, one of which triggers when not blocked. So when your ranged attack is not blocked, you get to freeze one rival foundation, and response after an attack is blocked, you commit Midnight, and then you immediately get your opponent to discard a card. If they don't discard an attack card, your next check to play a card gets +2. That is a very, very powerful ability, especially going against 6-handers and 5-handers, where you basically you go down a hand size because I blocked, and if you don't become less aggressive, my next block or attack becomes easier as well. That is so powerful. It is limited to range, and it unfortunately is not tenacious. So once Midnight is committed, you can no longer free stuff. So choosing when to use that is very powerful. But these are both responsibilities, so we can manipulate the enhanced step a little bit. But we'll come to that when we come to one of my favorite attacks in the deck. So this deck is built on the Death symbol because Death has some of the strongest ranged attacks at this moment in time. So main decking, we're looking at 3 Battle Law releases. Because as Andrew Holder put it when this card came out, if you're not playing Battle Law Release when you could be, then you need to explain why. This is an attack that helps deal with Midnight's biggest issue of damage. It replaces itself in your hand through draw, and it's a ranged attack, so if it does hit, then I immediately get to freeze. So having a 4/8 that allows me to freeze one of their things on if they don't block it is very, very cool. And the main purpose of this deck is to hand tax your opponent. I want to make sure you're not sculpting, I want to make sure you're not holding anything, because if you're just going to let my low damage attacks through, then you are going to get punished. Dire Assault is possibly my favorite attack in this deck. I think it's very, very cool. It is a 5 cost, 2 high block. That is a 4/5 low with Flash. So Flash is an ability that says that basically this attack skips the enhanced step. So for newer players, that means that you make your check, players respond to the check, players respond to the card being played, and then you move 2 blocks. No enhancers get played, nothing can interact with the enhanced step, and we move to blocks. And if you block Dire Assault, it has a response that says you discard a card. That is so very cool to me. Then we've got Acid Sprinkler. Acid Sprinkler is a 6 mid for 4 with 2 abilities. One, giving +2 speed to my next ranged or slam, which all these attacks are ranged. And the first enhance, or the main ability that it's in here for, is if this attack deals damage, my opponent will discard a card, but they may destroy a foundation to commit that. So you're either debuilding them or taking card out of their hand if this is going to hit. And because it's only 4 damage, a lot of people might just let it go over. I may start running more of this because it's actually really, really cool. But if your opponent is going to go out to block it, it can be a bit more tricky. Lizard Tail Splitter is such a good card in here. It is Deadlock Threat because it has Deadlock Echo. It's card pool stuff. It's filtering for draw. And it basically is still ranged. It's a 3 mid for 4. So again, it's one of those attacks your opponent feels bad blocking. But it basically stuffs the card pool by 1 and allows you to cycle through your cards. Somnambulist Subdual is possibly, again, the best attack in this deck. And this is the one that me and Richard have our biggest arguments about. It is a 4 cost, 3 high for 2 damage. Everything about that people hate to block. The only part that most people like is the high because they can use things like Showdown or Airy Smile to get around on a block. But blocking 2 damage never feels good. It has Stun 2, which means it commits 2 rival foundations down, and then has, if your opponent doesn't attempt to block this attack, freeze 2. So what that means is overall, if I'm playing Midnight and my opponent doesn't block this, I get to freeze 3 things. Late game, freezing 30% of my opponent's board is very, very powerful, but it's also a great setup card. If I play this second and get the last card out of my opponent's hand, blocking 2 damage, and then I throw a battle release down for 8 damage, they're going to feel really bad. Tray Size is just an absolutely solid card that allows me to use the echoes, and it's just chip damage. Try Gravity Beam is one that I added into here for a bit of fun. It is a 4 mid for 5 with, if there are 2 other attacks in my card pool, I can then destroy a foundation to rip a card from my opponent's hand and remove it. That is really powerful, especially in this deck where I'm just going to be going, your sculpting doesn't matter here, and it has Deadlock stun free. But having enough Deadlock to matter is a huge thing for Midnight because people will push into Deadlock, and Deadlock free is huge. We're then running a 1-of Genki's Guidance because it is a very strong defensive card, but also has discard on face. I get to form, I discard 1, you discard 1, and get to push through. Showdown, solid block, allows me to commit stuff down that I want to keep frozen, allows me to play on my opponents. Then we have the foundation base. I won't go too in depth about the foundation base because I want to try and keep these videos short. So draw power wise, we now have Battle for Dominance, Settling Old Debts, Latent Skill, all of which allow me to draw. Keiko's Aid is great for stopping my opponent's next attacks because it adds difficulty. Weapons Clash allows me to build quickly and also make my opponent's attacks a lot less deadly. Then we have Struggling with Studies, In Control, and Defying Fate for the main defense speed hate. Struggling with Studies, great defensive option, and Syndicate Target is a great option for the flip or battle release. But the bread and butter of this deck is Maximum Viscosity. Maximum Viscosity is a response that triggers when you deal damage with a ranged attack and your opponent takes 1. That is absolutely huge. The fact that even on a half block, even on a no block, all these tiny little attacks just started chipping away for even more. For me, that is a huge deal, and that was a big change from when I see this, when I don't see this in games. And unlike other burn effects in this game, this one can kill. This one can go, your opponent doesn't get to stay at 1. It gets around every, as long as your attack deals damage. If they go to 1, you go, cool, I'll respond, and they die. That is such an impactful card for that aspect. This is the deck I'm currently playing for Midnight 2. It is really, really powerful, really, really cool, and let me know what you think. I've been having a blast with this deck, and I will see you in the next one.